Julian Karaguesian, former special advisor at the Ministry of Finance. Hi there, good to see you again. I want to first of all get your take on the deal between the U.S. and the EU. Was it a good deal?
If this is followed through to its conclusion, it's a very good deal for the United States, but not for the European Union. But as Colton said just earlier, you got to wonder how stable this agreement is, how real it is, because it's so short on details. And does it require this framework deal? Does it require ratification by the 27 member states of the EU? What are the details on commitments to increase military purchases? And for Canada, what are the implications? Will CUSMA compliant goods and services be subject to a base tariff, as with Japan and the European Union? But I think a key question here, or something that's worth pointing out, is the stakes are much higher for Canada than for Europe or Japan. If we want to talk about exposure to the United States in terms of trade, Japan exports about 3.6% of its GDP to the United States, if I can put it that way. Europe exports about 6% of its GDP to the U.S. in the form of exports. We export up to 24% of our economy to the U.S. And so the stakes are much higher. And the Prime Minister obviously knows this as much as anybody, Prime Minister Carney. And that's why he is saying that he is holding out for a better deal for Canada. And I actually think that's true.
So what happens if August 1st deadline comes and goes? What's the impact on Canada?
I guess it depends on what the Trump administration does. If there's this idea that we need to be punished because we haven't accepted a Japanese or European style agreement, and if the Trump administration decides they're going to put punitive tariffs on us, these 35% tariffs, if they're across the board tariffs, as your guest earlier, Stuart True, pointed out, even 15% tariffs or 25% tariffs in automobiles are punitive. Imagine 35% tariffs across the board. If things continue as they currently are, with most goods and services passing through because they're CUSMA compliant, then we've taken a hit to trade, but it won't be a catastrophe. But it really depends on what President Trump decides to do if we don't reach an agreement by later this week.
Is there anything that Canada can learn from the EU-US negotiations?
Well, one thing that we can learn is we can take a look at some of these numbers, however real or surreal they are. $600 billion of investments, and from Japan, $550 billion. One thing we could do is extrapolate for Canada, and we can build those into our negotiations. One question is, will the Trump administration be expecting us to buy proportionately the same amount of military equipment? Are they going to be expecting us, for example, to invest $60 billion in the United States and purchase up to $75 billion of military equipment? So we can expect this kind of negotiation approach from the Americans, and we can ready ourselves. I think we probably are. Another thing we can learn is that we have to ask ourselves the question, is this a sign of U.S. strength, or is it a sign of U.S. weakness that they are treating allies in this manner? And I think we have to, apart from lessons from the Japanese and European deals and how we get ready for the August 1st deadline, I think we have to ask ourselves what we need to do next beyond the United States trade agreement. They were always going to be our largest trading partner, but I think we have to really accelerate our moves across the board on internal free trade, on the nation building projects, as the Prime Minister calls them, and on diversifying our trade with Europe, with East Asia, with the entire global South. We have to press ahead. I think that's the main lesson here.
Julian, great to see you. Appreciate your time with us.